Hey folks, if you don't mind me saying, how good is Karen Chua, a 14% reduction in harm in youth residences under her leadership of Oranga Tamariki? It's the first time that's happened, and it's because she's taken tangible steps to raise the standards, proactively manage behaviour, ensure there's consequences instead of waiting for kids to get up on the roof and then feed them KFC. It's a very good example of taking a practical approach, fixing things that are actually important to New Zealand's future. I'm just really proud of Karen and wanted to say that.
Have you had a chance to look at Labor's latest policy today? They've announced an expansion of subsidies for the gaming sector.
Yeah, if you look at what our government's doing, we're trying to save money and make services more efficient. There is not the money to go and speculate in something that sounds sexy to politicians. The truth is, if politicians knew what to invest in, they probably wouldn't be here earning a fraction of what investment bankers earn. And this is not new either. I mean, in the 80s we had the Development Finance Corporation, Helen Clark had the New Zealand Venture Investment Fund, Ardern had the Elevate Fund, James Shaw had the Green Investment Fund. You know what they all have in common? They all involve political investment in things that sounded sexy, and they all lost money and we're all paying for it. So I just oppose the idea that politicians should try and be venture capitalists. If you want to be a venture capitalist, do it yourself. But you tell me one example of where anyone in the Labour Party has made money by investing in technology with their own money. If they can't do that, why on earth would you give them yours?
Your coalition government has rebates, film industry subsidies and gaming industry. What's different there between that and Labour's policy?
Well, it's no secret what the ACT Party thinks of those policies, but I just make the point that if the choice is to do more of this or less of this, I would favour doing less of it.
And have you had those discussions with your coalition partners as well, heading into ahead of next year's budget?
Oh, I can assure you that not only do we have those conversations once, we have them frequently, and I just wish that I could get a commission on all the money that I've saved the taxpayer by stopping certain ideas. So.
Just going back to, are you still on rebate?
No.
Just on the comments, Karen Chua, right, this is quite a significant drop. What do you mean by the practical solutions and moves? What has actually caused this drop?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, she's visited nearly all 68 of the Oranga Tamariki facilities. In many cases, they've never seen a minister before. It's simple things like you actually got to wear a uniform, you've got to have management, you've got to have people who aren't performing out, you've got to strengthen the buildings and facilities, decorate them so they actually look respectable. You start doing a whole lot of little basic management things like that were neglected while they were talking about ideology and colonisation. Suddenly you actually reduce the harm to children. And I think this is critical because there's no culture, there's no language where hurting children is okay. These are universal values that she's bringing to the table.
Can you just explain that though, because this is a drop in reported harm, so this is the children themselves reporting instances of abuse, sexual or otherwise. So how does changes like that to the building stop people?
Well, this is in the facilities, so it's actually abuse and harm in youth facilities. As far as we're aware, that's never dropped before, and it's particularly poignant after the Royal Commission reported earlier this year that it's the harm that takes place after people are taken into the state that is critical. There's also been a drop in youth crime generally, but this is harm within facilities.
I just don't understand what you mean by in terms of like tidying up the facilities or things or uniforms. How does that stop the harm happening to children or that they are reporting?
Well, I'll put it this way. I actually went to a boarding school, and if you have a strong leader who sets high standards of behaviour from the staff to the children and to the children to each other, then you get less violence. If it's all a free-for-all, there's no standards, there's no uniforms, the locks on the doors don't work and the kids get up on the roof and they're bribed down with KFC, then you get something a bit more like Lord of the Flies. And what Karen's done is said we start by setting high standards, and that actually leads to less harm. Anyone that you talk to who leads a school or any kind of youth environment will tell you those are pretty basic things that were neglected for too long. None of this is rocket science, and I'm really proud she's done it.
There's been some concerns about the boot camp program and the potential for abuse in that. Do you think this data shows that those concerns may have been a bit overblown?
Well, bear in mind the boot camp was only ever 10 people, so it wasn't going to drive the concerns, but the boot camp program actually had a lot of learnings, and they were able to take things they learnt from that program into the rest of the system, so it's been useful in that sense, but it won't have driven the statistics itself.
Just on the Marine Coastal Areas Act, The former Attorney General Chris Finlayson says that the amendment is a Hobson's Pledge-inspired cluster that has nothing to do with restoring the original intent of Parliament. Is he wrong?
Chris Finlayson is wrong about that, and he knows he's wrong. He's made statements himself that said that the way the Act was being interpreted before we amended it was wrong. I think Chris, I like Chris, but I think Chris likes attention more, and he's just seeking a little bit of that, I'm afraid. I tell you what I think's interesting is these climate-related disclosures, mostly gone. ACT alone voted against that policy, and now it's going to be pared back to only the very largest firms. The savings to New Zealanders will be significant. Businesses can focus on their core business and yet still be worried about reducing their emissions because they still pay ETS fees, so I chalk that up as another massive victory.
Ultimately, on the climate-related disclosures, would you like to see them removed altogether? Because there are some prominent directors out there who've called for that.
Look, I support the government's policy. I think we've made a really massive improvement. Remember, ACT alone opposed these climate-related disclosures. Now the rest of Parliament has moved towards our principled position. But yes, I suspect in a future election we will campaign to get rid of the remaining ones too. For now, we're very happy to support this massive progress by the government.
What are your thoughts on
Sorry, yeah.
Party Māori burning legislation out in forecourt? What are your thoughts on that?
I try not to think about whatever Te Pāti Māori's latest hijinks are. I just make the point they ripped up the Treaty Principles Bill, now they're burning this bill. The only thing Te Pāti Māori won't do is actually engage in constructive debate about our future, and that is why I think they're in real trouble. Thank you. Come over here, Chris. They'll tell you what, tag team.
Well, you're waxing
yeah, good on you, mate. Cheers.
Sorry,
Oh,
I missed
yeah.
you in the scrum. Just quickly,
Sure.
Your thoughts on the burning the bill on the forecourt by the Party Māori?
Look, they burnt this bill, they ripped up the Treaty Principles Bill. They'll do anything to a bill except debate it intelligently. And that's why I think it's so important that they think hard about what is their contribution. Because right now, the ACT Party is opening charter schools for young Māori up and down the country, and these guys are just performing stunts. I mean, who's doing more for Māori right now, ACT or Te Pāti Māori? It's clearly ACT.
Yeah, sorry, I know you probably said it in the scrum as well, but
Get another go.
Yeah, driving up the stairs, would you argue it's the same thing there?
Well, I raised nearly $100,000 for children with heart problems. If they can point to a positive benefit of what they've done, then that's fine. But actually, I don't think they can, and you can report that if you want. But hey, look, massive fundraising for children with heart problems versus just being childish.
And for the record, you wrote an apology letter to the Speaker. Did you do that the day of or the day after? I can't quite recall.
Look, I'd have to go back, but I think it was immediately after. Because bear in mind, I was not aware that the Speaker had forbidden it. As soon as I was told that, I actually stopped and then apologised to him. So,
Were you told by security?
not that the Speaker hadn't done it. And by the way, not that the Speaker had said it, and just for RNZ's purposes, nearly $100,000 for children with heart problems. You want to cover that bit too? Well, yeah, but you haven't reported it yet. That's the problem.
Just in terms of the Mecca bill, the Hungaroa Māori Law Society has come out saying it's extinguishing Māori rights, eroding Māori rights. What would be your response to that?
Well, actually, what we've sought to do is uphold the original Ngāti Apa decision, that if you can show continuous, exclusive use since 1840, then you may have a right to customary title. We thought the Foreshore and Seabed Bill under Labour was wrong. We thought that the Marine and Coastal Area Act was the right way to give Māori a day in court so that people could establish what rights they genuinely had according to Ngāti Apa. Then the courts took it too far and we brought them back. So, let's have a more constructive debate about this, not just burn stuff.
Yeah, it's becoming quite unattainable though for Māori to be able to, argue from 1840 though, right?
But before 2003, there was no argument at all. I mean, it's, not everyone has a right to customary title. It only arose because there was a very specific case upheld by the courts 22 years ago. We've preserved that. We don't have an obligation to effectively give customary title to anyone that asks for it, which is a position no one supports, but where the law was going under the previous interpretation. Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.